The NFL season kicks off tonight with Ravens and Chiefs. We predict tomorrow's fantasy headlines today on this episode of the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Here are your hosts, Marcus Mosher and Kate Madjuk.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use promo code LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Kate Madjuk. You can follow her on Twitter at Kate Madjuk. You can also read her over at Yahoo. On today's show, we are getting you ready for Week 1 Chiefs Ravens Thursday Night Football by predicting tomorrow's headlines for the fantasy football community. And Kate, let's start with the most obvious one out there. Xavier Worthy is the next Tyreek Hill after a massive game against the Baltimore Ravens. Do you think it happens?
I think it could happen. So here's the thing. We do have some real powerhouses in this matchup. The NFL schedulers, I got to hand it to them. Like, they picked a pretty juicy and interesting matchup. Now, what's really interesting is that despite all this offensive talent, there are two really good defenses here in the mix. So my only concern that this headline might not live up to par is that, like, can Xavier Worthy step onto the football field week 1 and beat the Baltimore Ravens defense? Because we already know they have one of the best safeties in the entire NFL and Kyle Hamilton, who is probably going to make life on pretty much everybody on this Kansas City Chiefs offense a living nightmare. Now, the good news is they have enough weapons that, like, maybe there's just not enough of the Baltimore Ravens defense to go around.
Yeah, I think Baltimore's defense is amazing. We're going to talk about that in segment 2 when it comes to Isiah Pacheco. So hold that thought. But the reason why I think it's going to happen, or I think it has a chance to happen, is Andy Reid is aggressive. And I think he likes to make statements. I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but the Cowboys played the Eagles back in 2001. 2000. And the first play of the game was an onside kick that the Philadelphia Eagles ran against the Cowboys to open up the season. Like, Andy Reid's going to do weird stuff in week 1 because he likes to do stuff. You're going to see weird plays for the Chiefs. My prediction is I think we're going to see the Chiefs design 2 to 3 plays for Xavier Worthy where he gets a chance to make a big play down the field, whether that's like a flea flicker, whether it's like a deep over route. I think they're going to want to use his speed to at least try to scare this Baltimore defense. Maybe he goes 0 for 3 on those targets. Maybe he goes 3 for 3, and we're talking about 3 catches for 120 yards and 3 touchdowns. I do think we're going to see Xavier Worthy get the opportunity on Thursday night to have a big game.
And here's the thing, just having the sheer threat of him again, like, that is a threat that was not present for this Kansas City Chiefs offense just last season. You had the fact that, like, yes, there were guys that could push down the field, but MVS, not really a threat to catch the ball, right? Like, so you could literally just kind of ignore him defensively. You can't do that for Xavier Worthy. And I do think what could give them maybe some fits is the fact that, like, it's not just going to be, deep shot after deep shot to Xavier Worthy. We saw in the preseason that they had, a million different ways to incorporate him into the game plan, whether it was on a jet sweep, whether it was on, a target closer to the line of scrimmage, whether it was deep down the field. He can play all over the place. So, like, yeah, I think we might see some of that versatility and maybe just see Andy Reid kind of want to make, like you said, a kind of statement. Like, The Chiefs are back. We're coming for a 3-peat. And oh, by the way, you just let us draft the next Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, exactly. I can't wait. Let's also talk about Rashee Rice because
Yes.
anytime that I get to talk about Rashee Rice, I'm really excited. But I want you to make the case for Rashee Rice in this game.
Here's the thing. So we just talked about Xavier Worthy and how things, just kind of open up for the rest of the offense when the sheer threat of him as a deep play or a big play threat can open things up. Now, Rashee Rice utilized in a much different way. You don't see Rashee Rice getting all these like deep bombs, deep targets. You see him utilized closer to the line of scrimmage. Really good on the scramble drills with Patrick Mahomes. Just a very quarterback friendly wide receiver. If you have that threat of Xavier Worthy breaking one off down the field at any given moment, if you have that, you know, just threat, like it opens things up so closely around the line of scrimmage that we might just get to see Rashee Rice's yak ability on full display here on Thursday Night Football.
I agree. Like I think this is a very good opportunity. And we should also mention the slot corner position for the Ravens has not been great for them over the last couple years. Arthur Millette, their slot corner, has been dealing with an injury. Usually Marlon Humphrey stays on the outside. Nate Wiggins, who they drafted in the first round, is an outside corner. Maybe Humphrey will kick in and play in the slot in this game. There's also a possibility that it's Kyle Hamilton, who you mentioned previously. I love Kyle Hamilton, not really a slot defender. I do think this is an opportunity for Rashee Rice to have a really big game.
Yeah, I think could see, maybe not we gotta have the efficiency stat line that we can predict for Xavier Worthy, but I don't think 5 to 7 catches is, really overthinking it too much when it comes to Rashee Rice in this season opener.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to bet whether you're doing it on FanDuel or PrizePicks, that's a promo. Would you bet on Rashee Rice to have, or would you pick Rashee Rice to have the most receptions and yards in this game for the Chiefs?
Yes, I would.
Yeah, yeah, I would as well. Just I
I
think
think
he's
he's a
probably
lock
gonna.
for your lineups. I don't care what scoring format you're in. Like, I think Rashee Rice needs to be in your fantasy lineups tonight, especially in a full PPR format. Probably going to look at a top 15 week at the very
Probably.
least. Yeah.
I
Even
think it's
against
fair.
a challenging defense, I feel very confident.
And I don't think this is going to be a Travis Kelce game, and I could be wrong, right? Because they have such good linebackers and safety play with Hamilton and Roquan Smith and Marcus Williams. I wonder if they try to take away Travis Kelce and force Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice to beat them. And I think they will. I think this is a very, very good matchup for Rashee Rice, and I think he's going to have an outstanding performance. Okay, let's talk about the Chiefs running back situation because it's Isiah Pacheco and now Samaje Perine is suddenly in the mix. Should we be concerned about Isiah Pacheco? We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike on other apps, PrizePicks is just you against the numbers. All you have to do is pick more or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the best way to get in on the action on states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Download the PrizePicks app today and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's promo code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win in order to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, go check out the new Locked On NFL show. Locked On NFL is now 2 shows every single day. First, the madman Tyler Rowland kicks you off in the morning with a double shot of NFL espresso, and then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Add in the local Locked On experts, and you'll get unprecedented NFL insight, hot opinions, detailed breakdowns, all in 30 minutes. It's the new Locked On NFL, and it's twice a day. Make the madman Tyler Rowland and the barber Tony Wiggins your second listen at the new Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Kate, we are back here discussing tomorrow's headlines today. And let's talk about Isiah Pacheco, who looks like the clear-cut number 1 running back in this backfield. But are you concerned about Samaje Perine?
Here's the thing. So I understand that rostering the primary running back for the Kansas City Chiefs, one of the best offenses in the National Football League, tied to the best quarterback in the National Football League, usually that is a very good thing, right? A very good thing. However, the addition of Samaje Perine, I do think, like, though it's not a true threat maybe for a ton of work in terms of carries, he's going to be playing the Jerick McKinnon role. And that role was a significant one in terms of limiting his upside or total takeover as a receiver. You look at what the backup running backs did in Kansas City last year. Isiah Pacheco had 50 total targets on the year. The rest of the backups had 62 targets combined. Jerick McKinnon had 32, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 22 targets. And then you look at the dispersion of targets inside the red zone and inside the end zone. Isiah Pacheco was used 8 targets in the red zone compared to Jerick McKinnon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who combined for 12 red zone targets on the year.
Yep.
Those are very valuable opportunities, especially in an era of fantasy football where we have full PPR scoring and half PPR scoring kind of dominating the narrative. So, like, if they are not looking to make him a true workhorse 3-down back, which again, I kind of feel like they've told us they're not looking to do that. He's had some injury history. Maybe Isiah Pacheco is just like a really good running back that doesn't have top 5 upside for fantasy.
There you go. Just to be clear, I think Pacheco's going to be fine this year. Like, I do. I think he's going to be perfectly fine. I'm not worried about him. However,
But we're talking
last year in the
dynasty.
playoff game, we're talking dynasty, we're talking fantasy.
Yeah.
Last year in the playoff game against the Ravens, 24 carries for, I believe, 68 yards. That's not super efficient, Kate. Now, he did get into the end zone, and that kind of saved the day, right, from him from a fantasy perspective. But I won't be shocked if he gets 20 carries, 70 yards, 2 catches for 15 yards, and it's Samaje Perine that scores like a short 2-yard pass receiving touchdown. And all of a sudden it's, well, look at Perine. He basically outscored Isiah Pacheco in his first game with the team. Baltimore's run defense is unbelievable. Like, it's really, really good. And even Roquan Smith this week was talking about, hey, we've got to stop the run early so we can get to Patrick Mahomes. And what he's basically meaning is you're not going to stop the run and force Patrick Mahomes to pass, because that's obviously a bad idea. But you want to stop the run early so that when it's 3rd and 9 and you know that Mahomes has to pass, you can be a little bit more aggressive in the way that you rush the passer. So I fully expect Baltimore to try to sell out to stop the run, to try to make the Chiefs somewhat one-dimensional. And that could mean a rough game for Isiah Pacheco. And if Samaje Perine is getting the 3rd down work and catching passes, and if he scores a short touchdown, I can see why some fantasy managers and dynasty managers are going to panic come Friday morning.
Here's the thing about Isiah Pacheco. Again, I love watching Isiah Pacheco play football. His running style is just, that man carries the football. Every time he carries the football, like, it is the last time that he will ever play football. And there's something that I think as lovers of football, we just innately enjoy. But right now on Dynasty League football, as of the month of September, he is being drafted as RB10 in Dynasty startups. That's ahead of Kenneth Walker, Jonathan Brooks. Like, there are some names in that range that like it's hard to swallow. You look at the stable metrics, right? Let's go to the PFF stable metrics from last year. Here are his percentiles just across the board for 2023. 49th percentile PFF rushing grade. 39th percentile missed forced tackles per attempt. 56th percentile yards after contact per attempt. 40th percentile yards per route run. 28th percentile in missed forced tackles per reception. 63rd percentile in breakaway run rate. 72nd percentile in yards before contact. So like he's getting some room to run. He's not been overly efficient. Like it's not like we're talking about Devin Achane, who, by the way, is being drafted one spot ahead of Isiah Pacheco. Like that was an ideal circumstance last year where like they needed to lean on Isiah Pacheco, and it didn't amount to as much as we probably hoped, right? 216 fantasy points in full PPR scoring, just 9 total carries inside of the 5. Like, when they're at the goal line, they want the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hands. If Isiah Pacheco is not going to be the target because they're subbing him out for a Jerick McKinnon, a Samaje P. Ryan, just literally like fill in the blank of whatever receiving back they want to use, I'm just out at that evaluation of RB10. And yes, I think he's going to be more than serviceable for this year. I think we're looking at a top 12 back in 2023, but like or 2024, but for Dynasty, I'm going to be honest, like if I can get Isiah Pacheco off my team, I am. And I know like we were going into this as kind of a facetious headline, like are we but I kind of am.
I'm a little nervous about him as the Dynasty asset. I'm not nervous about him as a redraft asset, just because I think he's still the clear-cut number 1 running back on this team. I'm not concerned about Samaje P. Ryan. I'm not concerned about Carson Steele, but by the way, I kind of like Carson Steele to score a touchdown tonight. I think he's going to be fine. My concern is he's got 1 year left on his deal after this year. He's got the injury history. I just don't see the Chiefs paying a running back. I mean, Andy Reid is like historically known for never paying running backs, right? So I just like Isiah Pacheco a lot less if he's not playing with the Chiefs. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if he struggles tonight, but I'm not giving up on him for this season. We'll revisit this on Friday to see how he performed, but just be a little cautious about Isiah Pacheco on Friday, or on Thursday, excuse me. Okay, let's talk about Isaiah Likely, another Isaiah. Could he be the wide receiver 3 for the Baltimore Ravens this year? We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you hire the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In any given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. Every dayers on Friday's show, we're going to react to Chiefs Ravens Thursday Night Football, talk about all the biggest headlines, including the next Tyreek Hill, of course, right? We already told you about that one. But then we're also going to preview this Packers-Eagle game in Brazil. We'll have promotion commotion for the first time this year, so make sure you tune in for that. It means we're officially back. But Kate, let's talk about Isaiah Likely here. Do you believe that Isaiah Likely will be the wide receiver 3 for the Baltimore Ravens this year?
100%. I think we're about to witness the breakout. Now, Usually you hear wide receiver 3, and that's not like super exciting, right? Like usually the more you tumble down the depth chart, it's not like you're bragging that you roster any specific team's wide receiver 3 unless you think that that wide receiver 3 is headed for a pretty substantial breakout, right? However, the bar is a lot lower when it comes to the tight end position, right? Like
Yep.
maybe your wide receiver 3 on your actual real life NFL team gets you 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, right? Not going to make a dent in terms
No.
of your fantasy football value at the wide receiver position. 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, though, that is a viable streamer at the tight end position in fantasy football.
Without a doubt. And I think there's also the possibility that maybe it's better than that. And maybe he's more dynamic. I think we saw last year when Mark Andrews went down, Isaiah Likely was posting
Mhm.
high-end tight end 1 numbers. Mark
Mhm.
Andrews has been pretty durable throughout his career, but maybe there's a little bit of a shift here in the tight end room, and it's instead of it being like a 90-10 split, maybe it's 75-25 or 60-40, right? Like, who knows what this tight end room might look like? I'm betting on Isaiah Likely and his talent. I'm betting on them to find creative ways to get him the football. I wouldn't rule out the possibility that he becomes, let's say, maybe not the third receiver, but the third most reliable and productive receiving weapon in this offense.
So if you don't think he's like the third receiver, does that mean you think you don't project him to rank third
Well, that's
in
what I mean. Like
target?
I think he's going to be third. That's my point. I think he's going to be the
Okay.
third in targets, receptions, touchdowns. I'm not sure he's going to be the third in snaps because I do think like somebody
Yeah.
like Rashad Bateman is going to be out there a bunch because he's a good blocker. You're going to
Mm,
need somebody that with a little bit more speed, right? I I I think I would just project Isaiah Likely to be the more productive player this year.
yeah, I definitely think that's the case. I think he's going to be like you said, maybe not, eking into Mark Andrews snaps in a way that diminishes Mark Andrews' role in the offense, but I do think that the play they saw in the absence of Mark Andrews last year, it's like really hard to put that toothpaste back in the tube a
Yeah.
little bit. Like, I mean, we saw some pretty good stuff. 93rd percentile in terms of yards after the catch per reception, ranked third among 41 qualifying tight ends last year. He was uber efficient with the opportunities that he got. And I'm just saying, like, behind Mark Andrews, behind Zay Flowers, I think he's the third best receiver on this team. And this is a smart NFL franchise. I think they're going to realize that. And I do think, like, do you have any idea right now what Isaiah Likely's ADP, Dynasty Startup ADP is right now?
Without looking, I got to assume he's top 20.
He's tight end 19,
Yeah.
going behind Dalton Schultz, Cole Kmet. Like,
Which I
I
understand those
want,
guys are all starting tight ends on what we think is going to be good offenses, right?
yeah, and
But he's
that's
like that.
totally
He's like that
fair.
next guy. Like I would rather have him than that next group of tight ends that are pretty unknown or in bad offenses.
Yeah, but Isaiah Likely, I don't think any of us are going to snoot our heads at the fact that this 24-year-old tight end probably has some higher upside,
Yep.
just in general, because we know if he gets the opportunity to be tight end 1, that I mean, he would be probably a perennial top 6 tight
Well,
end. Like,
and I was going to say we don't really handcuff tight ends, and even handcuffing at the running back position doesn't happen much anymore. But if there is a handcuff at the tight end position, it's Isaiah Likely. It's kind of like when I believe it was the Colts in 2011. Dallas Clark got hurt, and Jacob Tamme stepped right in and produced the exact same numbers. I think if anything were to happen for Mark Andrews, even if it's for a 2-3 game stretch, we're projecting Isaiah Likely as a top 6 tight end every week.
every week, and I think, like, you could just take it to the bank. Isaiah Likely, I think, truly could be one of these, like, fringe tight end ones this year. Again, just based on the fact that, like, yeah, the bar a lot lower at the tight end position. If he truly
Yep.
is the third most productive receiver on this offense, which is a very good offense.
Who knows?
I think Isaiah Likely is a guy that I think we're probably going to be talking about on promotion commotion a lot this year. So
Yes.
all in on Isaiah Likely. Choo choo.
Any predictions on how this game goes before we head out?
No.
I've been going back and forth. My
That's what
prediction
I'm
has
like.
been
Depends on which way the wind is blowing for me, Marcus.
I think this is truly a 50-50 game. Kansas City has been a little up and down in these week 1 games. Meanwhile, Baltimore has been absolutely fantastic in week 1 games under John Harbaugh. I tend to lean Kansas City here just because there's so many moving parts on defense for the Ravens, including a new defensive coordinator, new linebackers, a new secondary. They have also had injuries all on the offensive line, but it won't shock me at all. Baltimore wins this game.
Yeah, I could definitely picture an upset. And if you want more week 1 predictions, Marcus, or to the audience, if you guys want more week 1 predictions, Marcus has you covered.
Yeah, 33rd team. I wrote about every single game, score predictions, some of my favorite bets. Go check it out. Go check out the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. You can check us out on YouTube as well. Go give the new Locked On NFL show a listen as well. 2 shows every single day, 1 in the morning with Tyler Rowland, 1 in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins. Make sure you check that out. Go follow Kate on Twitter at Kate Modjuk. I'm at Marcus_Mosier. Enjoy the first game of the season, and we will be right back here on Friday.